Hello and welcome to my workshop. My name is Paul. I'm a luthier and bowmaker based in Tasmania, Australia. In this series I will share some of the projects I work on each week, giving you a glimpse over my shoulder as I work as though you were looking through the window into my workshop. Hi, it's Paul here. Today I've got a French bow made by Cuniot Hury. Would have been circa 1900 to 1910 maybe. It'd be around 100 years, 110, 120 years old, something like that. And yeah, when it came in, I didn't take any before shots of it. I really probably should have, as it would have made quite a nice project for the channel. But when it came in, it was white with rosin. The stick itself was quite, sticky and coarse and rough. The tip was all yellowed with age. There was a lot of wear in the adjuster and the frog. The pearl slide on the top of the frog here was, you could barely see it for the sweat and gunge and rosin and build up of muck on it. So I've put quite a bit of time into cleaning it. All the silver work here on the lapping was black. Put quite a lot of time into cleaning it up so far. The idea with a bow like this is not a restoration. We're not looking to restore it back to new. We're looking to preserve it and keep it in good playing condition so that it can continue to be used without doing any damage to the original stick. There's things you can do to potentially preserve the original stamp. For instance, you need to watch how much wear is on the top of the bow where the hands hold it and where the thumb grip is. Any of the moving parts within the eyelet and the adjuster screw, the pearl eyes, things like that, they need to be looked at, and we look to do what we can to preserve, really, rather than restore. That's my approach anyway. So with that in mind, the stick has not been varnished. It's been polished, cleaned and polished, which is the way it would have been actually done when new. They were not varnished. The bare timber was polished after being colour treated and oxidized. So that's been done. All the nickel. This is only nickel mounted. It's not a silver mounted bow. Some of the French makers were using even sort of German and French factory nickel fittings in even some of their better quality bows, just for cost purposes. They were not necessarily famous or well known and wealthy. I don't see that as making it any less desirable, and I still would look to preserve it with the same care as you would a silver mounted bow, in my opinion anyway. So today in the video, I look at bushing the adjuster hole. So the adjuster, there was quite a lot of play in it. I say there was because I've now repaired it, but I'll pick up that process in a moment. Unfortunately, I didn't video the whole process, really only from trimming out the bushings. I'll show you, there's a couple of photos from after I fitted the bushings and drilled the hole, drilled out the hole. You only look to remove as little material as possible so that you can get a good fit with your bushings. There was quite a lot of play in this. There were signs that it was looking to crack, both at the nipple end here where the adjuster sits, and on the inside where the other end of the adjuster screw pivots on this side of the mortise. So there were signs that wear was getting to a point where that was going to start to crack. So it did need doing. And just checking again that we are absolutely spot on. This is the final size of the first half of the hole. It's 1/8. If this is as much as 0.1 of a mil out, it can affect the performance of the bow, so it needs to be spot on. So what we've just drilled there is for this part of the this part of the adjuster, and the shaft is thicker. It drops down from 3 mil here down to 2.2 mil at the end. So we need to drill the portion at the other end of the mortise for this thinner end of the shaft to spin in, which is where this drill comes in. It's got a step down on it, and I have marked that's the point at which we're going to start making contact, and then that's where we're going to finish. There is also a step down, so it will stop. We'll drill that, and hopefully as long as everything's been lined up, it will then operate correctly. You might notice there we go in and then out a little way, back in a little way further. That's just to clear the swarf from the drill bit. Then we'll run it out and see whether everything was set correctly. This gives you an idea as to what the bushing does on the inside and how much actual play there was, along with showing how it comes up. And then we drop the adjuster in, and that drops in there perfectly. So this is the underside of the frog on this bow, and you can see here I've had to bring the eyelet out a number of turns, as now that the adjuster hole has been recentered and the play's been taken out, it doesn't need to be so close to the bottom of the frog, to the liner. But you can see the importance of, if I can get it to show up here, and focus, there's just these little grooves in here on the liner on both sides, and they're caused by the corners of this eyelet, brass eyelet. The corners haven't been knocked off, so when it's been screwed right in tight to enable it to continue to work while there was too much play in the adjuster hole, that's caused damage to the inside liner of the frog, which is why I have highlighted previously the importance of fitting your eyelets correctly, and how you don't just buy another one from the shop and sort of screw it in and hope for the best. There is actually things you need to do to ensure that you don't damage your bow. And while this is only a nickel mounted Cuniot Hury, it's still a 100-year-old French bow, and therefore should be treated with, I think anyway, with respect, and as much done as possible to preserve these lovely artifacts. So now we've adjusted that eyelet out to suit, and the adjuster screw aligned in there, pick up the thread nicely in a nice smooth action. Winds the frog backwards and forwards. So now it just remains to colour up the bushing and match that to the colour of the original stick, and that will be right to continue without damaging the stick or splitting it out due to the excess wear. There was the signs of it starting to potentially split down either side of the mortise here due to the amount of wear that was on it. So you can see there's now no, you can see there's now no barely any perceptible movement. That's probably around a thou of play, and that's perfectly acceptable. So that's pushing the adjuster hole in the stick on a violin bow. So I finished balancing and graduations on this stick, this new bow, the one that I was bending a few months ago, and just following down here. It follows the curve. It's a little hard to get it in all in one shot. It sort of, my fingers get in the way. It sort of shows how it follows down. So it's a pointer. It's a case of you start with a definite dimension at the handle end and a definite dimension at the head end, but the graduations between that point are not necessarily predetermined. They change from with the density of each stick and the strength in each stick. And that's where the real skill in creating a well-playing bow comes from. It's not just about making something that's aesthetically beautiful and transitions from the head to the handle and a nice smooth flowing curve. It's not just about having perfectly sharp edges and octagon up at the handle end. If you're making an octagonal stick, it's not just about having a perfect octagon. It's about having a well-balanced and a stick where the strength of the stick and the is well balanced right throughout the camber of that curve. It's also about having the strength matching the density and the strength of the stick, not only up and down, but also in the cross axis and on the diagonal axis. The bow is played on a diagonal, so if it's really strong up and down and you just make the dimensions the same side to side, you may find if the timber has its own unique strengths, and if it has a weak spot on the diagonal or on the side, you might find you have a bow that's intrinsically strong up and down but then just falls away when you go to play it. So it's about getting all of those elements right is where the real artistry in bow making comes in, and that's where makers, the great French makers, Cuniot, Picard, etc., really excelled, was in their ability to judge and the feel that they had for the timber that they were working. Anyway, enough on that. That's that stick coming along and almost ready now to be oxidized, and that will help stabilize the wood and hold the curve. Help stabilize the timber after all that bending and working has been done on it, and it'll help it hold that curve and not straighten out or spring back at all. So that'll be the next step. That also introduces some colour back into the stick. This bright orange, and it'll go a bright purple, and then it'll deepen down to a, depending on how far you go with your oxidization and your colouring process, it'll deepen down to a nice rich brown, hopefully, on this one. See how we go.